Has anyone offered you a decent Steven Moffat story?
No. Well, where am I?
Can we get a Steven Moffat story? Yeah, good one. We got a new one. He'll be with you in a decade or so. He'll be worth it. You saw Blink, right?
Where am I?
Well, we've tried contacting the other Who fans, but they all seem to like it, so they don't really want anything to do with you.
I wasn't here. I was watching...
Yes, that episode you just watched, that happened. Sorry.
Oh, God. This is the darkest, blackest, least brightest day we will ever face. That's why you currently can't see anything. So, Danny died, can I say that? I said it, Danny's dead. But it's alright because he's still alive. Sort of. Can I just say that although the scene occurred a little too early in the story for my taste, the moment itself with Clara listening to that phone with the increasingly long silence was actually one of the most heart-stopping moments this series. Onwards, I know this is a nitpick, but it really took me out of the moment. Throughout the entirety of that sequence with the volcano and the TARDIS keys being thrown into lava, everyone in the room was wondering why the Doctor didn't just click his fingers to get back in. I mean, I know it's just a little plot hole and a dream sequence, but it's something Steven himself has established, and it ruined for me what would have been a very effective scene. That aside, it was a very interesting sequence, and hats off to Jenna Coleman and Peter Capaldi, not just for their acting in that scene, but their performances in the episode as a whole. The dark water aspect of this episode was a great way to introduce the Cybermen, though the revelation itself was easy enough to guess, given that we knew they would feature during this story. Unfortunately, this was impossible to avoid, due to their very public appearances during filming in London, but it was still effective enough visually, and a rather brilliant concept. Hold on a second. If dark water stops you seeing anything but organic matter, how come we can still see their chairs? Never mind. So, here's what I didn't like about this story, and I mean really didn't like. Don't cremate me. This was a fascinating and deeply disturbing idea that would have suited Torchwood wonderfully, but its use in Doctor Who is just wrong. I don't mind this show being dark. In fact, I'm a big supporter for the show moving in darker directions. But the idea of bodies being able to feel pain after death is horrid, and not in a good way. Steven has forgotten his audience, or maybe he's just trying so hard to be dark to the point where he just doesn't care. Imagine a child who has recently lost a close friend or relative being suggested to that their said friend or relative is feeling the pain of being burnt to death through cremation. And it's not that we can reassure them afterwards, as something which Moffat is taking advantage of, we don't know what happens after we die. I'm all for scaring children with gas mask zombies and moving statues, but this is traumatising on a deeply personal level, and I actually felt disgusted at the utter ignorance to this potential reaction. The revelation concerning the child that Danny Pink shot as a soldier, on the other hand, was a decent choice of subject matter for the dark tone needed, and I don't think that it crosses the barriers that cremation idea did. It was a brilliant and horrible moment when we found out the truth, and even though most of us could guess what happened from Into the Dalek, it was a real shock to see it shown to us as an event. Okay, so let's talk about that so-called twist concerning the true identity of Missy. It was one of the central theories being thrown at me since the very first episode. Missy equals mistress equals master. But I honestly didn't expect it, as I considered it so awful and so obvious an idea. I don't know, maybe I overestimated Steven. To be honest, the whole mystery surrounding Missy's true identity is not even remotely interested me. There's been no excited speculation on my part concerning her like I might have shown for River Song originally. Just half-assed suggestions because I honestly can't be bothered playing this same game over and over again. But I'll get to that later. So, Missy is the Master. I don't like this. In fact, I hate this. And it's not because I don't want a female master. In fact, I'm in the minority that wants a female doctor. It's because we had a chance to be shown proof that a female master would work as an interesting and compelling villain, and we were given the shitty stock Steven Moffat villainess. You've seen them, there they are, look at them all, count them, they're all the same. Oh my god, one day we need a female doctor, but oh my god, please, never, ever let it be Steven Moffat that writes one, because it's going to be just more of the f***ing same. Steven's writing, particularly for cliffhangers, has become increasingly predictable and formulaic. There's only so much shock revealing someone's identity can become after the same trick has been done several times before. Who is River Song? Who is John Hurt's character? Who is Missy? Honestly, although each of these revelations has been a different person, it's not a style I find myself excited about, particularly as I've been disappointed by almost all of them. Steven needs to stop focusing on trying to shock his audience, because using this method in particular is just becoming more and more noticeably stale. The cliffhanger was poorly executed editing-wise. It felt more suitable for us to end on that Cyberman's eye engulfing the screen than Danny and his iPad. Swapping them around would have given the ending a lot more impact. Instead, everyone in my room was looking around at each other wondering, is that it? Don't get me wrong, this episode does look lovely. The visuals never fail to impress regardless of its content, and I couldn't help but admire the workmanship. The sets, the cinematography, the performances on show are all very impressive. There's also no doubt that this episode had a lot of fan service to offer, if only during the second half of the story with the reveal of both the Master and the Cybermen, though whether this is a good or bad thing depends naturally on opinion.
But really, regardless of its merits, this episode desperately needs to be thrown straight into the abyss due to its ideas on cremation being tastelessly insensitive on a deeply personal level. That's it.